movie, She's Got No Name, part of the opening sequence is our main character, Zhang Ziyi. She arrives at a dock and she throws this bag in the water. We don't really know what's in the bag. And because this is very early in the movie, I was thinking, what would be the best angle to reveal our character? Kind of the first time that we might see her face. A shot like this, where the camera is below water, it's kind of our hero shot of craning down from her as the bag sinks into the water. I thought this would be a really interesting way to intrigue the audience and to create a sense of mystery about who she is, what's going on, what's in the bag. And when I proposed the idea to our director, Peter Chan, his eyes lit up. He was immediately very intrigued by this idea. And I think that this shot and the idea, the concept of the shot, helped to set the tone for what we wanted to achieve for the film overall. It was very easy to come up with the idea of this shot, wanting to do a perfect crane down in the water on our main character, Zhang Ziyi. But typically when you want to do that kind of a shot, it's very challenging. You have a crane above water with a rig so that the camera can sink down below. If you do that kind of thing, there's always challenges with the weight so that the camera doesn't float. And then the other idea would be to have an underwater camera operator that I've worked with before, who is basically diving with the camera. And whenever that happens, there's always a risk of the shot not working quite right. And that there's always challenges when it's a human operating the camera and they're just trying to sink down below. So they've got a bunch of weight belts and they're trying to get that all figured out, and then it always takes a long time and you don't always get what you want. When I first envisioned this shot, the first thing I did was to talk to the equipment manager of the company that I work with. And he told me about this new product, the QYC 5-fish Zen V, and the idea that there was, you could do a drone shot underwater. Everybody was on board with using it, everybody was excited, the producers were excited that we could do a shot like this precisely and quickly. Basically when we did the shot, when we actually executed it, I was near the actor, I was with her, I had a monitor, my second unit DP, my A camera operator, he was with the drone operator on the other side of the pool, and my assistant was there. They were able to do the focus, they were able to make sure that the exposure, the f-stop was set where I wanted. Really, once we worked out the pathway of the shot, it was surprisingly repeatable. You wouldn't realize that it was underwater because it was so perfect, where I wanted to start from, where I wanted to end from. One of the things that I discovered is that the propellers, the thrust from the propellers created some ripple effects in the water that not only helped sell the idea of the bag sinking and the physical attributes that you would get from a bag sinking in the water, but it also helped to break up the clear water, and it helped to create a little bit more of a rippling effect that made the shot more abstract. I was still clear enough that I could see the actress, but it felt more realistic that way, and I think it ultimately added to the success of the shot. In the past, I've done a lot of different ways of shooting underwater. I've done things where we're just in a pool. I've done things where we're actually underwater, in a real ocean environment. And I've also done things where we've shot on a blue screen. And we've tried to create, we just have the actors on wires floating as if they were underwater. Because in the past, it's always very difficult to get very composed, very exacting shots underwater. But then that becomes a huge issue of trying to get the VFX to create fake water and to create all the effects that you get from the water and the hair and all of those things. And now with equipment like the QYC 5-fish Zen V and the idea of repeatable, programmable camera movement, an underwater drone, I think it's opened up a lot of possibilities for what can be done underwater. Because of that, I'm inclined now to embrace shooting underwater. In the past, I've always been very careful. I know how difficult it is to shoot underwater. And so whenever there's scenes that require shooting underwater, it's always a big question. Do we really need to do it? Is there another way we can do the scene? But now in the future, knowing that I've got this tool at my disposal, then the question would become, how can we make it even better? How can we do underwater in a way that's more memorable for the audience? So I think the possibilities are pretty endless. Really, there's a lot that can be done with the underwater drone, with the QIC 5-7V. And so I think it frees us up to think about shots and to think about how we can do them. We don't need to rely on VFX to shoot underwater as much as we used to. We don't need to do CGI underwater shots. We can do them for real. And so the challenges are finding underwater stages that are big enough to allow us to create those moves and to create those shots.